All right, and I, I believe it's the time to begin. Welcome, everyone. My name is Bart. Together with me, we have Kuba online. Kuba is not visible. Hi, Kuba.
Hello, everyone. We not only have me here, but Marianna will also help us today with the questions that are coming from the chat, because there are so many of them, and we want to have them. We want to answer as many of them. So, yeah. So there'll be three of us here.
Fantastic. So thanks, Marianna, for helping us. Well, we need that support. Kuba is like a pro in terms of answering questions that are coming in through chat and comment section. Last time, if I remember correctly, Kuba, you were able to address at least 1.5 questions per minute, right? Is that?
Yeah. The summary was like 76 per the session, right? 76 questions we had on the last session. So hopefully we'll cover more today. So feel free to ask questions at any time, and we'll cover them, even if they are not really related to what's Bart talking about. Please use the Q&A section of Zoom. It's on the bottom. You'll see the Q&A thing there. And if you ask your question there, the answers also be under the answer tab. So please check out the answers to your questions. Because some of them might be private, like if they are related to your account, or then you'll have your own private response to that question if we don't respond publicly. So yeah, feel free to use that one.
Great. And try to focus on those simple questions, because then Kuba can surprise us with new stats, like answering 3 questions per minute, because there is one that is quick to answer. Is Explain Everything compatible with students using Chromebooks? Yes. There you have it. Here's an answer. And we'll show you more resources on that as well. But what we thought about doing today is actually something that we realized when providing those long live YouTube streams and speaking with teachers and gathering feedback. We see that there are some questions that are constantly showing up in communication. So this webinar we're going to use as a chance to address those very often heard questions related to actually getting started with active learning using Explain Everything. So what we thought about is to give you answer for 3 questions that we hear quite often, and that's the plan for today. We'll explore 3 questions: how I can engage with my students with Whiteboard if I have a subscription but my students, not necessarily. They don't have subscription yet. Are there any options? We'll look into that. We'll speak about how to apply for free extended trial, because these days we offer a longer period of time where you can use free subscription from us, just to see if Explain Everything works well for you in your teaching practice, especially during time of remote teaching. And we'll show you how to onboard, how to apply for extended trial, onboard your students, and what kind of scenarios you can use to get started. And also, third question that we hear quite often is that how to organize assignments and how to organize group projects using Explain Everything and some LMS. And today we're going to provide you with instructions related to Google Classroom, but you can think of any other system that you have in your school, because the workflow is really very, very similar. So we can, as Kuba said, we can answer other questions that are coming in with help of Marianna. Perhaps we can, this time, explain everything to you. So I'll go ahead and focus on those 3 aspects, providing you with pauses so we can dive into specific questions related to those 3 topics for today. And if we have spare time at the end, we can of course dive into any other topic. So this session is not going to be longer than 1 hour, sorry, but we hope we can cover as much as possible. So everyone that is with us on YouTube or Zoom has his or her questions answered. And as I mentioned before we started, this session is recorded and we'll provide you with a link, but the recording on YouTube will stay there, so it will be immediately available for you. Is there anything else, Kuba, that you would want to mention before we start?
Oh no, we're good. I think the questions that are appearing are kind of related to the topic that we're going to cover today. So yeah, it's going to be fine.
Okay, great. So why don't we do the following? Maybe stop me when you see that we should expand and provide some more information on topics of interest that you see on the chat. All right. There we go. Looking for my pencil. All right. So yeah, so this session is all about starting with Explain Everything in a most easy way. So let's assume that's the question number one, that as a teacher, you already have a subscription. You basically know what Explain Everything is for. And if you don't, we have tremendous resources that you can look into. And I would suggest recordings of our webinars or live stream we had yesterday, where you could basically get a good feeling of what you can do with collaborative whiteboard that we provide. But let's suppose you already know what is it for, and you would want to focus on active learning, that is engaging with your students, not only one directional information delivery, but rather, let's say, other forms that you can where you can put Explain Everything to use. So we have this quite often where teachers start with their own subscription and they want to engage students. So what are the options? And I've listed 3 here. Yesterday we had a very good webinar with Rashawn Richards, where I asked Rashawn the same questions. What's the first step to start remote teaching? What should be the starting point, the easy starting point? And he mentioned that using video format, that is using Explain Everything to create videos, is a great starting point. And that's why I listed that as a scenario number 1. So having a subscription to Explain Everything, you have in your hands a great tool where you can create explainer videos and share those videos with your students that don't have subscription to Explain Everything in a form of web video links. Oops, sorry. Of web video links. And it can be as simple as, I'll demonstrate this real quick. If you see that I have here on the bottom of my screen, record button is just here. So I'll press this record button. And now my video is recording. So I'll say, okay, oh my God, what did I do? And I'll say, creating explainer videos and sharing links with students is the great starting point in your teaching practice when you're using Explain Everything to teach remotely. And I press stop. And as you see, everything I did, that is moving around, even deleting those objects, is captured by Explain Everything, and it's visible on the bottom of the screen. So even my mistake at the very beginning can be trimmed down because I can select part of my recording and trim it down. So let's say now I have a very compelling lecture. And this is just a silly example, but you can think of like recording an entire lecture that way. And I can share this with students that don't have Explain Everything with simple 2 taps. Tap number 1 would be to tap here, top right, that's the share button. And on the top of this menu, you have create web video link. And if you choose this, this will initiate process of rendering video that will become available under the link that you see here. And there, the video will play. So you can test it. We can share this link with you in a second in a comments section. You can test it out. Of course, it's just a silly example, but the purpose here is to demonstrate that with this link, you can ask anyone to watch the video without any need for subscription or license. So that's the first thing you can do. And I'll just remove video from my slide here. Maybe we'll need it later. Second option you have when you have already subscription to Explain Everything and you would want to engage students more than just sharing videos, you can live stream your whiteboard. And that's exactly what I'm doing now during this webinar, because I use my whiteboard as a visual layer to the conversation, to the presentation that we have. And yesterday during our live stream, we had a great conversation with Ronnie, and he mentioned he's very proficient using this very scenario of demonstrating with Explain Everything those students that watch him on Zoom. And he mentioned how he's using chat to engage with them, and whiteboard that is broadcasted over Zoom to students to show them around. So we explored different options how you can live stream your whiteboard. So we encourage you to look into that resource, that video, for instructions. What options do you have? But basically, this scenario is illustrated in a most simple way here. So you can imagine that's me. I do have my Explain Everything that I use, but I connected to the session with Zoom app, with Zoom conferencing solution. I could use Google WebEx, Microsoft Teams, for example. The process is just the same. And I shared my screen using this option here. You see broadcast. So again, the top right corner, you have the share button, choose broadcast, and you can start screen sharing to any conferencing solution that you have. And as you see, I do have a few of those, but this time I'm using Zoom. So that's what you need to do in order to provide students ability to observe you on your Explain Everything. Keep in mind that your tools will be visible, so you can use presenter mode. If you want to reduce number of tools visible during presentation, it might not be necessary to have all of those content creation tools as you see here. Bucket fill, eraser, text objects, laser pointers. It might be that you just need presenting tools. So then just choose presenter here and you'll have just a handful of options that are very useful when presenting. And in this situation, if you already have a conferencing solution at your school and you have a license for it, you can connect students with this conferencing solution. And so it's up to you and your subscription to provide this visual layer to the conversation that is on your conferencing solution. And we explored many options how you can get this going, including how to use it so you have a front face camera on your computer, and how to use it with just a tablet and computer to the tablet. There are many options. We don't want to dive into those options today because we have other things to share with you, but we can point to the specific time of the live stream, of yesterday's live stream, if you would want to look that up. Kuba, can we do that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was responding to a question. Could you repeat, please?
Could we share exact time of our live stream yesterday, so those that are interested in different options, how to connect through Zoom with Explain Everything, they know where to look that up.
Oh, so you mean the ones that we've shared on the webinar with novice explainers?
Exactly.
That's
no.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, let me show you, Kuba. So these are my quick notes from yesterday, and those options that we explored are just here. Maybe I can.
Oh, you mean from yesterday? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I'm not sure if we have the timestamp already there, but yeah.
So we maybe let's do the following. For those that are interested
Oh yeah, they are
in
there.
details of those scenarios, we can share you the exact moment in a message that you'll get from us with the recording from this webinar.
Yeah, and
there,
I've already shared the previous one we had, previous webinar we had with Rishan that also covers that to some extent. So
fantastic.
yeah, that's one's also good. So yeah, I'll link the one with the timestamp from yesterday's session in a
I guess we
second.
spent like 30 minutes discussing those options with pros and cons. So this was quite interesting for those that were watching. We got a good comments and feedback. So if you're interested in 3 options, because you can use just tablet and computer, but there are 2 ways to use it, please use the material that we'll provide you. So getting back to the 3 things you can do when you have Explain Everything subscription and you want to use it for active learning. So option 1, that was create explainer videos. Option 2, live stream your whiteboard using conferencing solution you have. There is option 3, you can also engage with your students using cloud project. That is collaborative whiteboarding scenario I'm suggesting here. And you can actually use this when you have students without subscription to Explain Everything. It is a limited experience, but still it's possible if you want to get that going before making a decision to, let's say, purchase subscription. Students actually can enter your whiteboard and whiteboard with you as guest users. In order to make that happen, you need to start Cloud project and remain in the project. That means you as a subscriber, if you're present on the Cloud project, we call it a Cloud project, because then this project exists in the cloud, so anyone can connect with, let's say, code or by invitation. But here in this scenario, we assume that your students are not registered users, so you cannot invite them with email. Rather, you share connection code. So you can start this cloud project, share the connection code, and if you would be present on this cloud project, they can connect as guests without even registering. So that's very handy. What we advise to do, what we suggest to do is to use this scenario with small groups, like 8 to 10 students at most, at best 4 to 6, because if you provide access to so many tools for your students, it might be a bit, let's call it, unstructured experience, because usually what we observe is that students start to play with editing functions, and it's challenging to control sometimes. There are ways you can restrict editing functions, and this is also something we discussed yesterday. I can briefly just show you where to look for solutions. I just tap invite button on top right of the screen, and as you see, this takes my project that I started here on my tablet to the cloud. And now, as you see, there is a connection code. Using this connection code, sharing this connection code, I could allow anyone to connect with us. And I won't do that for now, so I'll just restrict this, because if you would want to have your students just observing you, you can change this to anyone with the link can view only, right? And having this setting here, anyone with the link can view, you will allow them to join, but without editing tools that I see on the left side of my screen. So that's a very good practice. You can then change this after they enter a session. You see the participants on the right side. You can change this and then allow editing. And more controls for this experience of collaborative whiteboards are coming, and we're going to release them quite soon. So you'll have fantastic options to guide them around in a more structured way than with the controls that we currently have. So I'll pause here. Those are the three options, and let's focus on questions that are coming related to active learning when you have subscriptions and your students don't.
All right. So there's one question. There are two questions that are answerable live, I guess.
Okay.
So the first one is the one that I've posted in our chat. Is it necessary to have a paid account for students to collaborate with teacher or between them, or just paying the teacher's account is enough?
So collaboration between them is still possible without teacher being connected to the cloud project, because that's what I suggested here. If you want to collaborate with your students, start the project as a paid subscriber and be present on the project so others can connect to you as guests. But if students, let's say, would want to work on a group project, collaborative group project, without having paid accounts, they still can do this, although they would have to register and explain everything. We do have this free tier in our pricing. Let me show you here. It comes with limits, but once you register for free account, you're actually able to create three projects and collaborate with voice chat. So if you ask your students to register for free account, they can start cloud project, and with some limits, like the space on Drive is up to 200 megabytes. It's enough for three projects. But it won't allow you to render many videos, for example. There's a limit in how long the videos can be rendered. There's a limit of 1 minute. But still, it's okay if students want to work on something collaboratively, even without subscriptions at the very beginning. I hope that answers first question.
All right, thank you for the answer. So I guess, well, if you're in the project, they can still connect, as Bart previously mentioned, right? So they, even without an account, so they can do that without an account. So that's the additional information that I just wanted to remind. So the next question is, why do you connect through a third-party app like Zoom rather than just share the explain everything code with permissions to only view? That's a great question.
That's actually a great question, and we also spent a lot of time yesterday explaining that, because there is the conferencing solutions are different in nature than what Explain Everything provides. Conferencing solutions are great at scale when you want participants to have a conversation with you like we do have on chat and Q&A, but are not designed for many people working together on a canvas, having a variety of tools as we provide. Our tool works in a way that everyone can edit with the same feature set. There is no limit. There is not, I'm just showing, others are watching and following me. It's rather, we are all in it, and if I do something, it's reflected on your end, but you can continue doing that in kind of like a more collaborative way. So that's why it is unstructured. If you think about large groups, we would not even try to do it for a group of 100 users. But in this question, what is mentioned that yes, you can restrict the editing features so others are just following you. And that's possible, and we see some teachers doing that. Although because of the load on our platform now, what we try to do is we want because we have so many teachers in so many schools and school districts using our platform, we need to make sure that everything is smoothly working for them for those group projects that are main use case that we support, not providing the instructions using Explain Everything where just one person, that is teacher, illustrates something and others are following him. That's why we have a limit of 25 or 20 participants of the session. Is that correct, Kuba? Is that 20?
Yes, it's 20 currently, though we recommend around 8 to have the best performance.
And if you think about the performance, what happens is technically different if you have students connected through, let's say, Zoom or Microsoft Teams. What is transmitted is frame by frame your screen, right? Or frame by frame video. Video is transmitted that way. We don't transmit frames, we transmit assets, we transmit manipulations. So if you have a larger group of people, this is a much bigger of a problem in terms of transmission, and that's why it is best to use it with smaller groups. So we don't advise to use it for instructional delivery. You can, if you have up to 20 students. It happens sometimes. What we suggest to do is to use this collaborative feature for small group projects. Okay. Oh, before we continue, I also listed some of the limitations that we have for free plan. So this is something we mentioned before. Up to 3 projects, 1 slide per project, 1 minute of recording, and 200 megabytes of storage space. So, shall we move to the question number 2? Or is there any other question that we should address before we do that, Kuba?
Oh, just checking.
Okay.
So I just got this app and I and I have a subscription for myself and students, but I also have a co-teacher I added as a manager. Is she able to do that as well with a subgroup of the class while I work on another subgroup?
Great question. Yes, yes, and actually it's something that brings us closer to what I have for you as answer to question number 2. So let me come back to this question after we go through the process that I illustrated on this part of my canvas, because this is a very good question, and it is sometimes confusing to understand the roles we have on a platform. So what I have here is an answer of how to deploy seeds to the group of students for those that apply for free extended trial or just purchase a subscription from us. So let's say you don't have subscription for now and you would want to test, explain everything in your practice. What you need to do is to apply for extended trial, and it's available on our blog. There's this article here that allows you to apply with a form that exists there. There's the button, get free extended trial, and you fill in the form, but that's actually step number 2, because what we need to do is to make sure that you apply having an account already on Explain Everything. So please go ahead, register for free account, and then apply for free extended trial. What we do is that we add to your existing account that you create in the step number 1, the group that you request. And the group can be from 10 to 2,000 seats, if I remember correctly. So apply for as big of a group as you need. And then when we grant you this extended trial that is at least 4 weeks long, you will receive an email with onboarding instructions. There are actually 3 emails that you'll receive during extended trial. And what you should do is to go to the access, is to go to your panel. So that is, you go to drive at explaineverything.com and you log in with your user that you created in step number 1 here. And in the top right, and I'm showing this here using my account, in the top right, you go to my account. And in that section, what will open is a panel where you can actually provide access for your students or other teachers, because we do have like 2 roles on the platform. You can provide access to another teacher, that would be manager, that's the word we use on our platform, or just member, and that's the student. And there are 2 ways you can do that. If you're uncomfortable with using email addresses, you go to your account. You won't see this, sorry. You go to your account, and here you have option to provide email addresses if you type in email addresses here, the email will be dispatched to the user with instructions how to claim subscription. And you'll see those that are active. There will be a status here because new users will show up on the list, and you'll see status. I have just active users, but these are the users that applied and claimed their subscriptions a long time ago. So that's the option number one. But sometimes you don't want to use emails. You would want to provide just the code to unlock explain everything. And for that, we have another option. If you scroll down, you'll see that there is an option to copy a code that unlocks explain everything for users that use this code. And there is a different code for manager and different code for member. So it's all you need to do is to provide your students with member code, and they can use it to unlock explain everything. Or you can provide manager code to teachers, exactly as in the question that Kuba provided before we started this section. What manager can do is that manager can add additional members. So you have like two subgroups within your license pool where you have managers and their members underneath. And managers can change passwords for, let's say, members, or rearrange the members' subscriptions. That's what manager can do. But make sure to understand that we call this manager. It may be confusing for some, but we meant teacher. Member, we meant student. Does that make sense, Kuba? Does that answer your question?
I hope so. Sorry, I'm just.
You're busy with questions, I know.
Of answering questions. So yeah, I hope so. Let us know in the chat if that was okay, if what Bart said for you.
It's sometimes this process is confusing. That's why I decided to illustrate it here. But it's actually something that you receive with instructions that you send to you once we create a group for you. So just follow the instructions or use my suggestions here. You have two options, and those options are available for you. And you don't need us to unlock anything additionally. We can, for example, if the group is large, we can whitelist the domain, but this requires you to contact us. But those two options are ready for you to use them. All right, so that's question number 2. And there is one more question that is quite frequent. And it's also what we want to do is to show you practically how to get started. So here we assume you already claimed your subscription, you're good to go, you know how to use your subscriptions, and you want to start the process of active learning. And by that, I mean having assignments, exchange between you and your students, or creating group projects, and how to get that off the ground. What I mentioned here, we're using Google Classroom to illustrate, because Google Classroom works great with Explain Everything, especially if you're using Chromebooks, but it also, of course, it works on Apple iPads as an app. We demonstrated that during our webinar last week. It seems like ages, but it was last week. We had this webinar, multi-purpose use of Explain Everything on Chromebook for teaching. And what we did, we demonstrated a process where teacher used an iPad to create assignment and students were using Chromebooks. So we actually used two devices and we illustrated the entire process. So this recording is also available if you would want to have a look into details of that scenario. But for now, I'll just give you a concept of how it works, just rough idea of how it works. So let's think about assignments. So as a teacher here, using Explain Everything, you can create an assignment that needs to be uploaded to your LMS, to your, let's say, Google Classroom, and you have many options. It's up to actually what you want to do, because you can upload project file, and that's editable project file that needs to be open and explain everything, but then can be reused. The contents of the project can be reused. So that's option number one. But of course, you can render video in Explain Everything and provide it to Google Classroom here in the form of a file. If it's a longer video, what we suggest is to create a link, this web video link that I mentioned, explaining, illustrating this scenario here. And this web video link is actually easier to share because that's just a link. Your project sits in the cloud, we render video for you, so we offload to your device with video rendering, so you immediately have a link to share, and all you need to do is just to put this link for your students to watch, to stream the video and watch it. So that's the option you have here, but that's not all. You can also export your project, your assignment in form of an image, I should say also document, because you can create PDF like this. You can export what I see, what I have here on a canvas in an image format here, or as a document. And as you see, when I do that, there's Google Classroom for you. I have this option as option number 2 because I use it all of the time. And this link to video, this is actually web video link that you can see here, top right of my screen. So that's web video link that is quite handy if you're trying to share a longer video, no waiting time. So in this scenario where we think of assignments, when you decide which format is most suitable for your assignment, you put it to the Google Classroom, you create an assignment in the Google Classroom, you attach your file or link, and you share it with students. And we assume in this process that students reply to you with results for grading. And they can, of course, use many formats. It's up to you what you need them to do. So they can, let's say, reply with a video. And you can then, using Google Classroom, open those videos, watch them here, or they can reply with a project that you can open and explain everything. You can use, when providing feedback, your explain everything to, let's say, create video to provide video feedback to the video created by a student. There are so many ways you can do it. It's actually up to you how you want to structure your assignment. And yesterday, during our live stream, we had a good conversation and illustration coming from Rishan, how he does that. So we, again, encourage you to check this out, because we do have resources and illustrations related to this scenario. But if you don't want to scroll through 10-hour long stream, the best resource to check, I guess, would be the recording of this webinar from last week, where we have few examples of how assignments can be structured. And those might be good to illustrate what is possible in this process where assignments are created. I'll pause here for questions, and then we'll move to the other option that we have that I prepared here for you.
So let me check the chat for a second and go back to our notes. One sec. So there maybe this question: is there a way that all users on my account can share all projects? My instructors do not always work with the same students.
So is there a way to share? Can you repeat, Kuban?
Is there a way that all the users on my account can share all projects? So I assume it's like a account-wide sharing, because So the answer to that is simply is that, Explain Everything doesn't really store the projects as account-wide projects. I mean, there are group projects that you can access from your account as an admin, and you will see those group projects, though. And I mean, for the projects that were made in your group, though, since Explain Everything is so widely used with other tools like Google Classroom, Canvas, and other LMS programs, systems, then it is the primary way of actually managing that. That's why we don't really have it right now as developed as we would love to. But yeah, so the basic answer is that they cannot, for now. They are able to share with anyone that they have in their group. That's not a problem. But in terms of like managing those projects, you wanna use something else for that.
Yes, because there's an overlap in functionality between what Explain Everything provides as sharing options and those learning management systems. We don't want to be too much of LMS. We don't try to be. Rather, we want to be great content creation and video sharing and collaborative whiteboards that supplements LMS solutions. But there are few exceptions. So if you would want to, let's say, share a project as a collaborative project, and you would invite participants to that project, this project would be listed with others in this shared with me section. So I'll show you here in my library. I have, if you see it top right, I have my drive. These are my projects that I sometimes share or keep to myself. And there's this other option here, share it with me. And when I look into this, these are the different projects that were shared with me. So if this is something you want to accomplish, to have your students projects that you share with them in form of a collaborative whiteboards, yes, you can do this. But as Kuba said, it's best to use LMS functionality for sharing with group, because there are so many ways you can do this. Even with Google Classroom, you can, now there is an update that allows you to make replicate content. We noticed that yesterday, replicate content. So Google Classroom copies your file that you're sharing with a group for each of the group members.
All right.
Okay, cool. All right. Any other question we should take before we move to collaborative projects?
So do you want to answer the question regarding the PDF? Or sorry.
Oh yeah. There is Raul asked us question, how I make watermark in imported PDFs. Kuba, how you would do that?
Well, I would probably just insert if you want to have a watermark on your Explain Everything project, because I assume that's what it is. You probably want to just include some sort of transparent PNG file on top of your project, and then export. There's no automatic way of doing that.
Correct.
You do it manually.
There is a question, can a PDF with more than one page be opened and scrolled on a single slide? Yes. So if you create an assignment that should have multiple pages of a PDF on a single slide of Explain Everything, definitely there is an option. So when you bring to the canvas a document, and maybe can show you real quick. I have this document here. If I can find it. Right, so here's a document, that's a PDF that contains few pages. I'll try to, okay, I'll press import and I'll try to show you what options you have. So as you see, there are 4 pages of this PDF, and I can select which page I need on the canvas of my whiteboard, and I can select how I want them on the canvas. So as a grid, as a stack, as horizontal, vertical alignment, or as separate slides. So in your question, I understand you would want them to have on one slide. So let's select grid and put it to the canvas. And there you have it. You have 4 pages here on the canvas that are kind of like linked together. They are linked so I can like move them together, put them, let's say here. And with assignment, and this is something we demonstrated on that webinar that I mentioned, with assignments, when you create an assignment and you have, let's say, those pages being part of your assignment, you can put instructions to explain everything. You can even record them and explain everything, or you can use Google Classroom to provide instructions to your assignment. This is, again, this overlap. You can do it one way or another because you have possibilities to do it in so many ways. All right, and before we take another question, so let me conclude answer to this question here, to this illustration that I have on the use of Explain Everything with Google Classroom for active teaching. So the last option that I wanted to mention is a way to share, to open collaborative projects with your students so they can work in groups and, let's say, explore concepts together. Like a Genius Hour, you have a concept to explore and you want a group of, let's say, 5 students to work together and share their understanding and evolve project from lesson to lesson. And they should do it on, let's say, on a collaborative project, how to do that and how to structure that. So what I would suggest is, as a teacher, and I don't have teacher here, so I'll take this little guy here. As a teacher, what we would suggest to do is to use Explain Everything and create template for this cloud project and put this cloud project to the cloud by uploading it with this invite button. That's the button that I showed you previously, but I'll press this again just to show you one more time. It will create this link here for the collaborative project once it uploads. This project is already big, so I'm going to cancel it in a second, but I would use this link. And even with this button, you can share this link to the Google Canvas, to the Google Classroom, sorry. So this would be like, okay, I want to put it to the Google Classroom and create group assignment with this link. Because groups should be small, I would copy the template and share actually not one link, but few links, depend of how many groups you want. And by that, what I would use Google Classroom for is to provide my link with each of the groups that should work using this cloud project that I provide them with. And then they can use this link to connect to project and work together. And as a teacher, you can always come back to this project and see the progress, or ask them to report results in form, let's say, of a video. You can. That's the piece of the scenario that I illustrated before. They can send over short video snippet using their Explain Everything just to illustrate their progress in brainstorming around certain concept. So that's how you can use Explain Everything together with LMS for more active teaching by just creating assignments or collaborative group projects for your students to work remotely on. Okay. So we have still some time, and I'm happy to answer as many questions as we can, because we'd love for you to test those possibilities by yourself. So if there are any lingering questions, we're happy to take them. Let me see.
I think we can go to the next section, and then since it's already almost an hour, we have 10 minutes left.
Yeah, that was the third and last one. So that's
okay.
We're
Okay, so we got it.
To answer questions.
So this is okay. So let me, because I was typing it out, but I think it's better to answer it live. With a teacher paid subscription, can I give unlimited projects to kids, or do the kids need a paid account too?
With teacher paid subscriptions, you can create as many projects as you like. There is a limit of the size of your cloud account, of the Drive account, and it's 500 megabytes, I believe, for teacher. So up to this limit, you can create as many projects as you like and share them with students. If there are cloud projects, they can, as we illustrated, connect to them, having their accounts on Explain Everything. Those could be free accounts, but basically the answer is yes. And with this space, you can create lots of projects.
So to kind of expand on that, if you share the project with your student, they say they have a free account, right? So the project will not be added to their their own Explain Drive, though as soon as they create their own 3 projects, they won't be able to open another one. So that's the limit, right? I'm not exactly sure how it works in practice if you share those projects like that. But yeah, please keep in mind that they may be, if they are on a free account, they might have to just stick to just the projects that you share with them.
The free account is great, though, to try things out.
Yeah.
But in practice, it seems that it might be too limiting if you have students that want to create something more than those limits provide. So in that case, please contact us. We're happy to look into your use, Explain Everything, and suggest solutions to apply for subscriptions. We're happy to help in that regard.
All right, so some editing questions also. What do I need to write with a pen? Shall I look at your website? I assume I need some kind of a pad.
It depends. I mean, Explain Everything is most suitable for multi-touch devices. It's mobile first experience that was designed for use of pencil, like here with my iPad, or stylus with Google devices. Yesterday, we had Ronnie that demonstrated how to write on the canvas even without multi-touch screen. So he uses MacBook Pro, and he shared a great tip. Do you remember the tip, Kuba? How was it possible to write with just a finger on the trackpad?
Yeah. That's a great tip. I think we have it somewhere on our live stream. There should be a timestamp of that. Let me check.
Yeah, we can share that with you later, because this is a very, very cool tip. We thought that it's not very, useful to have Explain Everything on, let's say, a computer without multi-touch screen, because you can do so many things with your fingers. I can just quickly demonstrate that for you. I can just grab those elements around, right? And I can use them with my fingers with no problem. This is not something you can do with a mouse. With mouse pointer. But then again, writing with finger is possible even on trackpads of MacBooks. And that's what Ronnie shared with us. And we encourage to use Explain Everything with those multi-touch devices. All Chromebooks that are currently on sale, they do have multi-touch screens. So this is a great solution for that kind of devices. And also, we advise to use as large screen as possible. Yeah, for writing, this is then the best experience you can have.
All right. So I just sent the link to the part with the Ronnie. So watch this whole thing. This is great. It's very short and it's pretty cool. Great tips about the remote teaching and Zoom Plus Explain Everything combo. And okay, so to continue with the editing questions. Will the video stop if we change the page regarding the recording? So that question will also popped up, yeah, yesterday.
Yes, so the video will not stop. It will continue to record on this next slide, although keep in mind that the Explain Everything creates separate recordings for each slide. So if you have 3 slides, you start on slide number 1 and you then move to another slide, this video will continue to record, but it will separate the video between those slides. And if you would want, let's say, go in a linear way from slide 1 to 3, that's all right. But let's say at the very end on slide number 3, if you want to go back to slide number 1, there are some ways to do this, but we don't encourage you to go back and forth between slides. There is a workaround to that we illustrated yesterday during our live stream, and we can provide you with the link to that as well. But short answer is yes, the recording will continue, but we advise to go in a linear way from the slide from the beginning to the very end, or just use just one slide, because this open canvas actually comes without limits. So you can put as many slides as you want, press record, and then move around those slides like that, presenting what you need without any restrictions or limits that come from the nature of slides.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So just keep in mind that the slides are like scenes, right? The scenes are, in an order. So that's why you cannot go back and forth. If you record and then open next slide, then it will create a new recording on the new slide. And if you go back, it will append the recording to the previous slide. That's the that's the easiest way of thinking about it. Scenes, not slides. So
there's very good question coming from Raul.
Yeah, and there are a couple of Explain EDU related questions. So I guess we can expand on that too.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's spend some time on this, because this is a very interesting topic for many. As the question goes, if I use Explain Everything and my student uses Explain EDU, then will he get my project which I share to Google Classroom? The answer is yes. Explain Everything Whiteboard and Explain Everything EDU, that is on iOS platform alone, they share the same set of functionalities for project editing and video recording. So think of Explain Everything Whiteboard, the subscription offering, as something that is enhanced with the cloud features. This web video link creation happens in the cloud, that comes in a subscription offering. This group collaboration comes with subscription offering. However, Explain EDU users can join collaboration. They cannot start collaboration because this offering comes without cloud features, but they can still participate as free users, for example. They can render videos. They cannot share them through our cloud, but they can render videos as files, and then those files can be shared using Google Classroom or other means or other platforms. So this is like the difference between Explain EDU and Explain Everything Whiteboard. And we actually have a good video that illustrates the differences, and we can point address where you can find this video. You can go to pricing page and look that up. If you look at our educational offering, I can show you this real quick.
I'll send a link to the chat.
Great.
And while you here you can learn more about Explain EDU in detail. That's the link that Bart's showing. And you've missed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Check out Explain EDU here, right? Thank you, Kuba. So that's okay. And here you have this video that shows the difference between Explain EDU. I know this guy. Yeah, nice haircut. That was the time where you could actually have a haircut. Okay.
Right. So,
Here you have those differences.
and there's a question related to that. So, all right. Oh, wait a second. Where we go? Okay. Can I share my screen in the EDU edition like you show for Zoom? Yes, exactly the same way. It just works the same way. So, because basically what you're doing in Zoom, you're sharing a screen of a different app, and you're just choosing Explain Everything as your app of choice, right? So the broadcast option that is not available in Explain EDU is actually a very neat shortcut to do so. Because if you have Explain Everything EDU, you would have to go to the control center and then enable the screen recording in the control center on iOS, and then touch and hold the screen recording button to open the same menu. Whereas in Explain Everything Whiteboard, you can just press broadcast and it will appear, and it's much easier. You can also do it from the level of the broadcasting solution you're using. So say you are in Zoom, you just tap on the share button and select Explain Everything, and it works the same way. So that's just very sorry for speaking so fast, but it's a very common question we get. But
you can tell that Kuba, it's not the first time he's answering this question. so maybe I can just show you real quick on our whiteboard. Oh, sorry, that's not a window I wanted to use. Whoops, here. So broadcasting and explaining EDU will also, my mistake one more time, will also show this option here for broadcasting your screen. There won't be create web video link, but export and broadcast option will be there. And what Kuba mentioned is that with some devices, and for example, with Google devices, you don't still have this broadcast option just to live stream your whiteboard so easily. We are working on this so it comes to Chrome and Android versions of Explain Everything. But for now, what you would need to do is to go to your conferencing solution. So let's say it's Teams or Zoom. And if you're in Zoom, you have option, once you start your meeting, you have option to share your screen. It's just here. You can share your screen from within the conferencing solution.
Right. Yeah. And that's how you do it from the other side, right? Well, if that's the right expression. So, okay, there's a great question about cloud projects from Heather. Heather, sorry. I'm not sure if it was covered yet, but I wanted to know if you collaborate with students and you have finished the collaboration, if you delete the project, are students still able to still go on and work on the project, kind of like having an open chat room for supervision? So the short answer is, if you delete the project, they won't be able to do so, but you can keep it there and they will be able to stay there if they have accounts, right? Because that's the basic rule, right? If you want, you invite people to your project, they can stay there as long as they want if they have editing permissions, as long as they have an account. If they are just guests without an account, they will not be able to join the project unless you are in it. That's the basic rule. And so if you want your students to collaborate on a project you prepared for them, you need to keep it there. So don't delete that.
Right. Sometimes you can think also about limiting editing functions. So for example, you want projects to be there, but you don't want students to work on it anymore. You can restrict options by just removing their ability to edit with this menu that I showed previously. So under invite button, you can choose if those that are connecting have editing rights or are just viewers. So if you change it to this option, let's say, they will still have ability to connect to project and see the contents, but they won't change anything in the project.
So there was a question that I've typed in the response to what it was about. If your school doesn't use Zoom, what else they can use? And so I'll post it in the chat as well, because we've recently created this whole article on our help center that actually links to the most popular solutions that your school can use for that. So if you don't use Zoom, you can use something else, like Google Hangouts, BlueJeans, Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, Zoho Meetings, Cisco WebEx, Join Me, and so on. So these are
there's
the
so
most
many.
popular.
Yeah.
There are so many. Yeah. There are so many solutions right now we can use that it shouldn't be a problem if you don't want to use Zoom.
No, Explain Everything works great with those solutions. We tried them ourselves. We do have a good course on YouTube. So if you'd like to watch some videos devoted to that topic of sharing screen over a different conferencing solution, look for Better Online Meeting course. I can show you this real quick. You go to YouTube and you check Explain Everything Better Online Meetings. There you have a good resource where we illustrate with 8 videos. Here's the entire playlist with 8 videos, how you can actually broadcast your whiteboard over different conferencing solutions. And some of those that Kuba mentioned are listed here: Zoom, Cisco WebEx, Microsoft Teams, BlueJeans. So check that out. I think it's a very, very good illustration.
All right.
Okay.
So, of course, there's another question from Karsten. Does it work with Shobi? So yes, it does work with Shobi in a similar way that you would use it with Google Classroom. So you would kind of create the project and then, share the project or share a video someone created. There's no direct integration with Shobi, but you can use it in tandem. A lot of teachers use it that way.
Using OpenIn, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is this seminar for teachers or parents? I am a parent and I received an email about the seminar. So we send those emails. We'll introduce more newsletter preference options soon because the audience grew to a huge amount, and we're gonna introduce more options for getting the actual email you want. So this seminar is for anyone who wants to teach and provide instructions remotely.
So it's primarily for teachers, but we got those requests that there is a need to provide instructions for parents and also students that will have their assignments or group projects and explain everything, and we work in those materials. So you can, as Kuba mentioned, we will provide those materials quite soon. So with some option just to differentiate between groups, because right now those seminars are sent to our newsletter recipients, and there is no option to choose who you are, what kind of role you have. And that's why maybe you were referred to this webinar that we primarily designed to support teachers and the way they can use remote teaching.
Right. So there's a question about fonts. Is there a way to underline with fonts? I tried to type a book title and couldn't figure out how to make a bold and italic, but I could figure out how to make bold and italic, but not underline. I think there are differences between platforms in terms of those, because we won't be able to see your options. Are you Command U using, or is there, because I don't see the bottom of your screen?
On the bottom of my screen, because I'm using keyboard, iPad with keyboard, but if I disconnect this.
Yeah, that would be helpful probably.
Right, so there is this option, but I'm on iPad, so there might be a slight difference related to the device that you use. I wonder if you're not using web, it might be that we don't have underline on web, and yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. So this,
I'll check it really quick, and let's jump to another question and try to wrap it up. So there's a question to something you've mentioned before, and I'm not sure how it is related to it. Or maybe I just responded to a different question. So let's let's answer
But
another one. And while
just to conclude, there are tiny differences between versions because the development of those versions for different platforms. We try to keep it at the same time, but some platforms are catching up to others. So by principle, they're all have the same feature set, but some missing elements on some of the platforms we actually list in our help center. We can provide you with this resource that shows exactly what is not yet, let's say, on one platform, but exists on others. But by principle, they will all work the same quite soon.
All right, so there's no underline on the web version yet.
Yeah.
Just to answer the question really quick. Is
But
there an option?
Okay.
Yeah. Is there an option that student cannot edit the content put by teacher, but can draw on it? That's an interesting thought.
Well, you can do this by creating an image of what you have on a canvas. So sometimes if we want to fix the contents so they're not editable, we just export this with this option here, an image. This option here, because if you look at it, what I have here on the canvas, this is like a whole huge pile of different objects, right? Different objects can manipulate. But if I do this image thing here, and I'll do this real quick just to show you, and I'll save this image to, let's say, my my photos here. What explain everything does, it will try to, oh, that's very interesting. It will try to export a large image just by adjusting resolution of the image, so it becomes just a single object. And then this object, you can write on top of this with explain everything, but you won't be able to edit contents. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Though I think it's more about just the drawing, because then you can also mess with the image once you insert it. But yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting thought that you maybe that in the future there will be an option to actually restrict editing only to drawing, for example. That would be cool.
We're actually working on that kind of control over experience, because sometimes we hear feedback that it is confusing to have so many options. It's just sometimes intimidating. So there will be in future an option to restrict those tools. So that might be the solution for this problem.
All right. So the question that I got here is a follow-up to a previous question where we talked about being able to work with the other teachers, or what can other teachers in your group do. So can we both teach something different with two groups at the same time? So I think it's a matter of using two different slides, say like two different groups, because you can create your own projects, and that way you will be able to work with two groups if these are different subjects. But if there are two teachers with the same class, but you want to divide them into group, you can divide your students into to work on different slides on two different things when collaborating.
Correct.
For example.
Yeah, correct.
Right, and that is how we could go about it.
Fantastic. So we're so happy that you joined us today, and we hope that it was informative for you. And
there's just one final question. That's a final one. So
okay.
Though it's going to be probably tricky to answer. I have 5 children in my school, and 2 of them are special needs. Do you have things to help with teaching special needs? So just as a preface to Bart's answer, it all depends on what kind of special needs they because we had some feedback from teachers using Explain Everything with students with special needs, and we have an article about this on our website, which I'm going to link, and let Bart answer the question.
Kuba, those 10 hours yesterday.
Yes, you can feel that.
But as you see, we were trying to provide you with what you need during this time, because actually it's intense time for teachers and for us as well when we're supporting teachers in their accelerated change of methods, so let's call it that way, accelerated digital transformation sometimes. So yeah, if you see that there is something that you need from us, what we should provide you with, some answers that were not yet provided, just let us know. Maybe during this time of year, don't send us email. We have over 850 emails still waiting to be answered. We're working, the entire team is working on answering emails. There are so many of teachers interested in teaching with Explain Everything these days. So it's at best, we'll provide you with new webinars, maybe not 10-hour-long live streams like yesterday, but a shorter form where you can ask us questions and get responses as here immediately. For those that participated, we thank you. Thank you for your questions. We hope that it was interesting, informative, and we hope to see you next time. And thank you, Kuba. Thank you, Marianna, for providing.
Just please wait a second while I'll try to find the article that we had just to answer the question about the special needs. Oh, autism. Okay, got it.
I won't close the session, so if you want to put it to the chat window,
oh yeah, I will
go ahead and do so. So for those that are interested in that, we won't close the session, so you can get the links that you need, because we shared quite some of those interesting materials. So, but we will of course follow up with an email with anyone that registered for this webinar. So you will receive a recording along with those links that we shared. So thank you for participation. It was great.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.